Zoo-wee mama, how's it going everybody? I'm here today to talk about the absolute worst cards in Marvel Snap. Now I love doing this video every couple months because it changes, okay? Second Dinner is surprisingly good at getting around to most of these really bad cards. If you have seen my past videos talking about the worst cards, it's changed, okay? I'm gonna go over the worst cards at each cost, 1 through 6 in Marvel Snap, and talk about the worst cards in each cost. And again, it has changed over time. They've given small buffs to ones that I've previously named, so it's nice to see where it's at. But let's look at the current worst, and hopefully these are cards that will get some buffs in the future. So first up, when we're looking at cards that cost 0 or 1, we have Martyr, who literally tries to lose you the game, and it turns out Martyr is pretty dang good at doing that, okay? She does live true to her ability. She has horrible win rates. She has horrible win rates when played, specifically, and horrible cube rates, okay? If you're playing a deck with Martyr, it's probably not a very good deck, and if you actually play Martyr to the board, it gets even worse, okay? Your chances of winning, according to the stats on Snap.fan, drop, and your average cube rate drops, okay? If you're trying to lose cubes, put Martyr into your deck. How do they solve her? I don't know. I mean, she does a good job at her job, right? She tries to lose you the game, and she actually does that. Does that mean she's a successful card? I don't know how you define her. And she even just got a bit worse because Professor X got nerfed. It used to be where if you didn't want Martyr to move, you either fill up your board or you lock down her lane with Professor X. Well, now she can move out or in to Professor X's lane after the game ends, okay? So if you're not filling your board, there's really no other way to stop her from moving. So maybe they just make her 1/6, I don't know. Next up, we have Domino. Now, in Domino's defense, she's a Series 1 card, okay? She's not built to be this super awesome card that always works. It's more of a early game. You're learning how things work. You're learning how curve and tempo works, but it's just not a big deal in Marvel Snap. Okay, Quicksilver, which actually it's surprising that Martyr's worse than Quicksilver, because it should be Quicksilver's the worst 1-cost card. But there are not really any 2-cost cards who are just worse than Domino. She saw a bit more play recently. People are trying her in Blink decks. I don't think it's a good idea, okay? And the stats, the math doesn't show it's a good idea either. You should not be playing Domino. The tempo in Snap just does not matter as much compared to other card games. So the whole idea behind Quicksilver and Domino is that players could never complain about not having something to play on turns 1 or 2, okay? They couldn't complain about those bad draws like they did in Hearthstone. Hearthstone was made by Ben Brode, who's also obviously the founder of Second Dinner. So that's kind of why they're in the game. I don't think Domino ever gets changed, but she's obviously just a very, very bad card. Now, when looking at 3-cost cards, this one saddens me a bit. We have Mr. Fantastic, okay? You can tell I got him inked. I am a huge Mr. Fantastic enjoyer. I really do like the card. I used to play it a lot. I rarely play it now. It's just not very good, okay? And we've even had some Spectrum ongoing lists that have been really competitive lately, and they're usually not running Mr. Fantastic. He just doesn't have the power output, okay? I mean, it was a big sign when Miss Marvel came out, and she cost 1 more, and she was adding 15 power to the board. Now, they eventually nerfed her. Now she only adds 14, and she is a bit more restrictive, but it's still just a huge jump, okay? Mr. Fantastic, at most, is like a 3/6 if you're not buffing him up with like Onslaught or something. And there's just more ongoing cards now that can be Spectrum targets, so he gets replaced now by Mobius. He gets replaced by Captain America, who just got buffed twice. He gets replaced, US Agent, a ton of cheap ongoing cards that just add more power than he does. So I would really love to see Mr. Fantastic get a small buff. I know he's also an early game card, but hey, they buffed Captain America. Why don't they make Mr. Fantastic a 3/3? Okay, or keep him as a 3/2, but he adds +3 to the locations on left and right. Or even make him a 3/1 and do that. I mean, there's a little bit of wiggle room where they can make him better without making him too strong, and I would love to see that. When looking at 4-cost cards, I am looking right at Attuma for the worst 4-cost card in the game. Now, it's kind of a close call between him and White Queen. In fact, Attuma sees a bit more play than White Queen. There is that Big Dumb Idiots deck that Gunny T's known for, and that deck does run Attuma. But unfortunately, there's just other good power options at 4 costs. You know, there's been more just added to the game. When you think of Call Obsidian, even things like Mockingbird that are 9 power, but you can get discounted. I mean, Jessica Jones gets high. Even Drax got buffed. You know, he can be 9 power. It's like, do you want this 410 that you need, 100% need to hit with 0 or have Under Armour's protection? If you don't have those, you literally cannot play him. Okay, and he doesn't even have absurd power. Again, there's just so many options now for 4 costs. You can have other 9 and 10 powered cards, and they're not so limited. They're not so literally tied to other cards. And, you know, he's just not very good. You could make him 11 power, right? He's still very niche. Even if you power him up, it's still very specific requirement. You could easily bring Attuma to 11, even 12 power if you wanted to, and he would not see an insane amount of play. Okay, so I would like to see that. It would force people to play more 0, Armor, Invisible Woman, or Supergiant if they actually want to take advantage of it. The worst 5-cost card, and the overall just worst card in the game, is Kang. I don't think I need to discuss this anymore. I think everyone is aware that Kang is the absolute worst card in the game. It's not a debate. If you think this is wrong, you're wrong. I have no more comments about Kang. Now, when looking at the worst 6-cost card in the game, we've got Orca. Okay, there's not too many 6-cost cards, so it's kind of tough competition, right? Even like a kind of mediocre 6-cost card is in the discussion for worst 6-cost cards. There's just not that many of them. Orca is genuinely bad, though. You know, even a card like Destroyer, it did get buffed. Destroyer's a 6/16. He's not very good. He's playing Big Dumb Idiots. You really just have no reason to play Orca, and he's getting worse over time. Orca was bad even before Red Hulk came out. Now Red Hulk is out. Okay, now Destroyer does get up to 16 power. We've, of course, got Blob in the game. He's hitting at least 15 most of the time. I mean, there's just other big power cards. Why would you play Orca? Even if you stick him in his own lane, which is really risky, it's usually not big enough. 16 power on a lane, you know, we've all played against Hela. We've all played against Shuri Red Skull. 16 power to hold down a lane doesn't feel great. It just does not do that much work. You're not super confident. And so you have this really restrictive ongoing. It can easily get turned off. We also have White Widow in the game now. That can turn off Orca. I mean, there's so many things working against him. He's getting worse over time. I think you need to change his ability, okay? I don't even think you just up his power because it's still not worth it. Even if Orca was like a 6/13, he'd go to 18 power if he's alone on a lane. You don't want him alone on a lane. You just do not want that. You want to be able to play more cards there. You don't want him to get countered so easily. You could just get blown up with Shang-Chi. I mean, it's not great. You could flip it so that Orca starts with more power. Maybe he's a 6/14 or 6/15, but then it's ongoing -5 power if you have another card here. Okay, kind of like Lizard, but instead of needing your opponent to have the lane full, you just need one other card there, and it gives Orca minus power. That would let you hit Orca with 0. Okay, turn off his ability so he's just like a flat 6/14 or 6/15. You could hit him with Enchantress or something if you got him out a turn earlier, if the game had 7 turns. I mean, it would just allow for more play. What deck do you even play Orca in? You know, Namora is not a bad card. You don't need Orca in a Namora deck. And you're even playing Namora before you're getting out Orca. Like, you just don't need him. No deck wants Orca. He's bad. And I don't think he just buff his power again. I think you need to change his ability. So those are my thoughts on all of the worst cards in the game currently for Marvel Snap. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if at any of these costs you think there is a worse card that I did not name. Okay, you think the one I named is not the worst, and you can think of one that is worse or that the stats are showing are just absolutely abysmal, horrible win rates and cube rates when played. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, how you would buff or change some of these cards, if you would go with my suggestions or if you had a better idea of how to actually make them playable. Let me know what you think, and until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.